Imagine you have just finished a long, exhausting day. You walk into your living room, ease yourself down into your favorite chair, and finally let out a deep breath of relief. You feel completely safe. You are in your own home, resting your body. But what if I told you that the specific unconscious way you are positioning your body in that chair right now could be silently creating a catastrophic medical emergency? What if the simple act of crossing your legs or sinking deep into your recliner is actively multiplying your risk of suffering a devastating stroke? This is not an exaggeration, and it is not a rare occurrence. Every single day, patients are rushed into emergency rooms across the world with massive blood clots or sudden strokes that were entirely preventable, triggered not by extreme physical exertion, but by exactly how they were sitting while watching television or reading a book. Today, I am going to reveal the dangerous sitting positions that adults over 55 fall into constantly. We are going to look under the skin at the exact mechanisms of your blood vessels to understand how a seemingly harmless posture can compress your arteries, spike your blood pressure, and create deadly clots that travel straight to your brain. Before we get into the heavy science, I want to remind you that this video is for educational purposes only. I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor. The information I share today is designed to empower you with knowledge, but it does not replace the personalized medical advice of your own healthcare team. Never make major changes to your medical routines, and certainly do not change or stop any of your prescribed medications without having a direct conversation with your primary care physician or your cardiologist. Every human body is unique, and you need a doctor who knows your specific medical history. To understand why a simple sitting posture can be a matter of life and death, we first have to understand the incredible, against-gravity miracle that is your circulatory system. When your heart beats, it forcefully pumps bright red, oxygen-rich blood down through your arteries to every single cell in your body, all the way down to your toes. That part is relatively easy because gravity is helping pull the blood downward. But once that blood delivers its oxygen, it turns dark and deoxygenated. And it has to make the long, exhausting trip back up to your heart and lungs. It has to travel up through your veins, fighting against the powerful force of gravity every single inch of the way. Your veins do not have a strong muscular pump like your heart to push the blood upward. Instead, they rely on two critical things. First, they rely on a series of tiny, one-way valves inside the veins that snap shut to prevent the blood from falling backward. Second, they rely on the physical movement of your muscles. Every time you walk, every time you flex your calf muscles, those muscles physically squeeze the veins, squishing the blood upward toward the next valve. Medical professionals actually call your calf muscles your second heart because they are absolutely vital for returning blood to your chest. Now think about what happens when you sit down for a long period of time. Your calf muscles go completely dormant. That second heart stops pumping. The blood in your lower legs suddenly has to rely entirely on the passive pressure of your system to climb back up, and this is where the extreme danger of the first posture comes into play. I call it the Popliteal Pinch, but you probably know it simply as crossing your legs tightly at the knees. When you sit down and cross one leg over the other, resting the back of your top knee directly on top of your bottom kneecap, you are doing something incredibly dangerous to your vascular system. Right behind your knee is a major anatomical crossroads called the popliteal fossa. Running right through this shallow space is the popliteal vein, a massive critical blood vessel that carries almost all of the returning blood from your lower leg. When you cross your legs at the knee, you take the hard bone of your bottom knee and press it directly into the popliteal vein of your top leg. You are literally pinching the hose closed. If you take a garden hose that has water flowing through it and you step on it, what happens? The water backs up, the pressure builds. In your leg, when you pinch that popliteal vein by crossing your legs, the dark deoxygenated blood cannot get back up to your heart. It pools in your lower leg. Your calf begins to swell with stagnant blood. Your veins stretch out, placing immense stress on those delicate one-way valves. And when blood sits still inside the human body, it does what blood is biologically programmed to do when it stops moving. It begins to clot. This condition is called deep vein thrombosis, or DVT. A deep vein thrombosis is a solid mass of coagulated blood that forms inside the deep veins of your legs. According to research published in the medical journal The Lancet, prolonged immobility, particularly with compressed blood vessels, is one of the leading triggers for DVT in adults over the age of 55. But a clot in your leg, while painful and dangerous, is not a stroke. So how does crossing your legs lead to a stroke in your brain? To answer that, we have to look at the terrifying journey a blood clot can take. When you finally uncross your legs and stand up, that sudden rush of blood can dislodge the clot. The clot breaks free from the wall of your leg vein and becomes what we call an embolus. It travels up the massive inferior vena cava vein, directly into the right side of your heart. From there, the heart normally pumps it into the lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism, which is a life-threatening emergency on its own. But for approximately 25% of the population, there is an even more direct, deadly path to the brain. Roughly 1 in 4 adults has a structural abnormality in their heart called a patent foramen ovale, or a PFO. A PFO is essentially a tiny hidden trapdoor between the right and left upper chambers of the heart. It is a leftover hole from when you were a baby in the womb that never fully sealed shut. Most people have no idea they have a PFO, and it causes absolutely zero symptoms until a blood clot arrives. If that blood clot from your crossed legs travels up to your heart and you happen to have a PFO, the clot can slip right through that tiny trapdoor, bypassing your lungs entirely. It enters the left side of your heart, where it is violently pumped out through your aorta and shot straight up your carotid arteries directly into your brain. When that clot wedges itself into a tiny blood vessel in your brain, it cuts off the oxygen supply to your brain tissue. Within minutes, brain cells begin to die. This is called a paradoxical embolism, and it is a major cause of what we call cryptogenic strokes, which are strokes where doctors initially cannot figure out where the clot came from. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine proved that patients with a PFO who develop deep vein clots are at an exceptionally high risk of suffering these exact types of strokes. Let me share a story from my clinical experience about a patient named Thomas. Thomas was 62 years old, a retired accountant who loved to read historical biographies. Thomas was not overweight, he did not smoke, and his cholesterol was under control. One rainy Sunday, Thomas sat in his reading chair for nearly 5 hours straight. As was his lifelong habit, he sat with his right leg tightly crossed over his left knee. He barely moved the entire afternoon. When his wife called him for dinner, he uncrossed his legs and stood up. He felt a strange, sharp cramp in his right calf, but he ignored it. He walked into the kitchen, sat down at the dinner table, and suddenly dropped his fork. His wife looked at him and noticed the entire right side of his face had gone slack. He tried to speak, but his words were garbled nonsense. His wife recognized the signs of a stroke immediately and called an ambulance. Thomas was rushed to the hospital, where a brain scan revealed a massive clot blocking a major artery in his brain. Thankfully, they administered clot-busting drugs in time, and Thomas survived with only minor physical deficits. But during his recovery, the cardiology team discovered a large, deep vein thrombosis remaining in his right calf, right below where the popliteal vein had been compressed. And an echocardiogram revealed a small, patent foramen ovale in his heart. Thomas's stroke was not caused by high cholesterol or a failing heart. It was caused by 5 hours of sitting with his legs crossed. The pressure created the clot. Standing up dislodged it, and the hidden hole in his heart provided the direct highway to his brain. Beyond the risk of blood clots, crossing your legs has another immediate and dangerous effect on your cardiovascular system. It directly spikes your blood pressure. This is a physiological certainty. When you cross your legs, you are not just compressing veins, you are also compressing arteries. You are making your heart work significantly harder to force blood through a constricted space. A fascinating study published in the Journal of Clinical Nursing measured the blood pressure of patients in various sitting positions. The researchers found that when patients crossed their legs at the knee, their systolic blood pressure increased by an average of 8 to 10 points. If your blood pressure is already elevated, perhaps hovering around 135/85, simply crossing your legs pushes you instantly into the danger zone of stage 2 hypertension. And the longer you sit that way, the longer your heart strains against that self-imposed resistance. Over years and decades, this constant, repeated strain damages the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, making them stiff and accelerating the buildup of plaque. This leads me to a very important medical directive regarding your medications. Many of you watching are taking daily blood pressure medications like lisinopril, amlodipine, or losartan. You go to your doctor's office, you sit on the exam table, and the nurse takes your blood pressure. If your legs are crossed or dangling without support during that measurement, your reading will be artificially high. Your doctor might look at that false high number and decide to increase the dosage of your medication. Now you are taking a stronger dose of medication than your body actually needs. This can lead to your blood pressure dropping dangerously low when you are at home, causing severe dizziness, fainting, and catastrophic falls. Always, absolutely always, ensure both of your feet are flat on the floor, uncrossed, and your back is supported when anyone is taking your blood pressure. Discuss this with your doctor, but you must be an active advocate for accurate measurements. Now let us move to the second incredibly dangerous sitting position, which I call the recliner slump. This posture has nothing to do with your legs and everything to do with your neck. Modern recliners are incredibly soft. When you sit in them for hours watching television or scrolling on a tablet, your body tends to slide downward, while your head is pushed severely forward by the thick cushions. Your chin drops down toward your chest, and your neck assumes a sharp, unnatural angle. You have four main arteries traveling up your neck to feed your brain. The two large carotid arteries in the front and the two smaller vertebral arteries. These vertebral arteries are incredibly delicate. When you slump forward with your chin tucked to your chest for prolonged periods, you are physically stretching and compressing those vertebral arteries. Research published in the Journal of Neurology has shown that extreme or prolonged neck flexion can significantly reduce the volume of blood flowing through the vertebral arteries into the back of your brain. In severe cases, this severe bending can cause a condition called a vertebral artery dissection. This is a microscopic tear in the inner lining of the artery. Blood seeps into the tear, forms a clot right there in your neck, and then breaks off, shooting straight into your brainstem, causing a massive, often fatal stroke. I want you to think about how many hours you spend looking down at your phone or sleeping in a chair with your head lolled completely forward. You are compromising the oxygen delivery system to your brain. It is the exact same mechanism as the infamous beauty parlor stroke syndrome, where older adults suffer strokes after having their necks bent backward over a washing sink. I want to share another brief patient story, this time about a woman named Eleanor. Eleanor was 70, an avid knitter. She would sit in her soft, deep armchair for hours every evening, her head intensely bowed forward as she focused on her knitting needles. She started experiencing terrible headaches and bouts of extreme dizziness, often feeling like the room was spinning. Eventually, a specialized ultrasound of her neck revealed that her prolonged, aggressive forward head posture had severely narrowed her left vertebral artery. The blood flow to the balance centers in the back of her brain was being chronically reduced. Her doctor ordered her to change her chair, keep her head elevated, and take frequent breaks. Her dizzy spells completely vanished. She was incredibly lucky she did not suffer a full dissection and stroke. Now, I want to give you a very clear, easy-to-follow action plan to protect yourself starting right now. I call this the stroke-safe sitting checklist. These are 4 non-negotiable rules for your daily routine. Step 1. The 90-degree rule. When you sit in a chair, your body should form a series of right angles. Your feet must be flat on the floor. Your knees should be bent at a 90-degree angle, and your hips should be at a 90-degree angle. Never cross your legs at the knees. If you absolutely must cross your legs out of habit, cross them only at the ankles. Crossing at the ankles does not compress any major blood vessels and is completely safe for your circulation. Step 2. The neck alignment check. When you are watching television, using a laptop, or reading, check the position of your ears. Your ears should be vertically aligned directly over your shoulders. Use a firmer chair, place a small lumbar pillow behind your lower back to force you to sit upright, and bring your book or your tablet up to your eye level rather than bending your neck down to your lap. Step 3. The 60-minute alarm. This is perhaps the most important rule of all. Human beings are not designed to be sedentary for hours on end. Set a timer on your watch, your phone, or your stove. Every 60 minutes, without exception, you must stand up. Just stand up, walk to the kitchen to get a glass of water, walk to the window, or simply march in place for 2 minutes. This simple act activates your calf muscles, flushes out any stagnant blood, and completely resets your circulation. Step 4. The hydration baseline. Thick dehydrated blood clots much faster than thin hydrated blood. You must sip water consistently throughout the day to keep your blood volume optimal. It takes 2 minutes and it can literally save your life. These 4 steps are simple. They cost absolutely no money, and they are incredibly powerful tools for protecting your brain and your heart. Do not underestimate the profound impact that small, daily physical habits have on your longevity. I strongly encourage you to share this video. Send it to your spouse, email it to your friends, or share it with your local community group. You could very well prevent someone you love from suffering a debilitating stroke simply by giving them this information. Tell me, how many hours a day would you guess you spend sitting down? And do you find yourself naturally crossing your legs? Thank you for your time today. Take care of your heart. It is the only one you have got, and I will see you in the next video.